it out.
And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Bullpen Cart, presented by ThunderblogSports.com. I, of course, am the G-Man. With me is my man, Matty D. What's going on, buddy?
Well, G, if you're not paying attention right now, I'm going to jump right in here. If you're not, just real quick, if you're not paying attention right now to the Phillies, because most Philadelphia fans, all they can think about are the Eagles, the Sixers, and obviously the disappointment of the Flyers, and you are missing one of the hottest teams in baseball. So that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Pretty fired up about our Phils, and I'm hoping if they could just go ahead and maybe win a little bit more, get a couple more good wins at home where they're dominant at home, you could be looking at another Philadelphia sports team being back in vogue, if you will. I just had to get that off my chest because, as you can probably attest to right now, they are the fourth team due to lack of success over the past few years. I think they'll surpass the Flyers if they are at all good this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would think just because baseball on just a completely different level has its own time. I feel like the Phillies never really lost it. I would say they never lost second to the Flyers or the Sixers. They probably,
okay.
I would say they're close to losing into the Sixers now. I'd say the Flyers are fourth.
Yeah,
but the Sixers are making a charge to second.
Yeah, I guess I'm more thinking on if you're listening to talk radio.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I base a lot of judgments on that. You're getting a lot. Obviously, the Eagles dominate at all times. There's always questions coming in.
Always but Philadelphia will always be a football city, especially now that we have the Lombardi Trophy.
Right. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, I don't really think, and this is kind of a neat thing about the city, I don't know if there's necessarily a team that isn't beloved. Now, the Flyers may not have the same size of fan base.
Yeah.
But the passion of the fan base is probably equal, if not surpassing, the Sixers and probably even the Phillies to an extent in terms of the passion per fan. I think we're one of the more unique cities in that regard, as in there's not kind of throwaway teams here. Every team is beloved. They have tradition. They have, And I'm actually, well, you know what? I'll ask you a quick question because I thought this was pretty interesting. At first, I thought, how cool is it? And I hate this city. How cool is it that Pittsburgh, all of their teams are black and gold? Doesn't that sound great? Black and yellow. Sorry, the whole city black and. But then I realized, well, that's nice. First of all, it doesn't make. I mean, if you're one of those team owners, you're probably, wait a second, revenue is down. Because I can wear my Steelers jersey to a Pirates game, and I can wear my Penguins jersey to a Steelers game and get away with it kind of thing.
The Pirates hat everywhere.
Right now, that being said, our teams truly have, like the Flyers are just orange and black. We love it. It's a great color. Everyone wears it. The Eagles have the green, whether it's Kelly. They have the black. The Sixers, I love the Sixers' new unis. I'm a huge fan of the red, white, and blue. I think it's a great look. And the Phillies with the red. So they each kind of have their own unique color scheme that differentiates them from other teams in other cities, and they're all unique within themselves. So it kind of forces you to be a true fan if you're going to own a piece of everything.
True.
You can't really bandwagon. And I like that. The more I thought about it, the more I'm happy that each one of our teams kind of has its own color. And that I can say I bleed orange, I bleed green, I bleed red, and I bleed blue. Those are your kind of four colors. I think it's fantastic. So
I'd agree with it. But before we scare everybody else off with how much we love our fair city,
I was a little Philly love fest there. My apologies.
We'll come back to the Phillies when we get into Phillies talk. But we thank you for sticking around through this. We'll jump right into business, though. A wild week, Matt, in Major League Baseball. We mentioned the Phillies, but who else do you think have been hot teams? We'll start in the NL.
Okay.
If I had to pick one,
go ahead.
I was going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals. This is a team that, I wasn't necessarily too high on at the start of the year, but considering where the NL Central has been to start, the Cardinals have done a lot of things right. Their pitching looks great. They're producing runs, and they're doing really well on the road, which I think, especially early on in the year, is very underrated. We were talking about that a little bit last week of where teams are playing. St. Louis kind of in that weird area of the Midwest that it's still, I think it's pretty far south latitude-wise comparatively to somewhere like Philly, but it still gets the icky weather. So they're okay at home, but they've done pretty well on the road. And they're putting together. They're technically a half a game ahead, or I guess they're tied with Milwaukee, but they have less losses, less wins, so a higher winning percentage. But I mentioned they're pitching 7th in ERA, 15th in WHIP. The batting is there. They're 11th in runs scored, already over 100 in 3.5 weeks of baseball. And they're fighting through injuries too, which I think is the most impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mistake to kind of write off. I'm not saying that you did, but I think to write off the Cardinals because they've been such an incredible organization, for the past ever.
Yeah.
Pujols era, even farther back than that. They kind of had an off year last year. Carlos Martinez, by the way, is a bona fide ace to me.
Gunning it.
1.42 ERA. I mean, he's been good for years. Doesn't get a lot of credit. He's a hell of a pitcher, and they just kind of have that kind of team this year with a little bit of everything, and they do. They have a great. I know they say they're winning on their own. They have one of the best ballparks and a great home field advantage.
Yeah.
That they can kind of lean on, which I think is so impressive. And they've got
never been
quietly who can be good. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I've never been to Busch Stadium 2. I went to Busch 1 back in the day. It's last year. My dad and I went out and saw the Phillies play there. Really cool atmosphere down in St. Louis. They really love their Cardinals. We talk about who is it a football town? Obviously, St. Louis no longer has a team, but they are a very big baseball town. So it's a cool experience. If you've never been, I highly recommend going out there, and I definitely need to check out Busch Stadium too.
Yeah, I've actually never been in Busch Stadium number 2. I was out in St. Louis, got to walk around the stadium. I think they actually are happy. And we talked about this before in a previous pod or maybe a blog. I'm not sure. Maybe we just had this discussion. But when I was talking to the people out there, they're actually happy that football left because they love the Cardinals and they love the Blues. They got 2 teams they root really hard for, which I think is fantastic. And their stadium it's not even a stadium. It's like a complex. There's tons of restaurants and stuff all attached to it right there. I mean, it's definitely an experience to go.
That's cool.
Wasn't able to make a game when I was out there, but was bummed I couldn't. They got a big series coming up starting tomorrow night against the Mets, 3 in a row. We will get Martinez versus DeGrom and Michael Wacha versus Thor. Syndergaard. So good little matchup there for them, to kind of test their mettle. And we'll kind of see. Now, obviously, they're going to have to replay some games because they had a bunch of games against the Cubs they were supposed to play. Yep. So I'm sure they'll try to fit them in if they can. But looking at the schedule, they actually have the Cubs coming up, but it doesn't look like they have. Maybe they could fit one in on Thursday. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. So, because it's not at the Cubs where they missed the game. So anyway, sorry, I digress. Great pick for a hot team, though. They're definitely flying up, and definitely a team to be wary of and have to contend with. They've got a good group of young and old guys there.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What do you got for me in the National League?
I'm actually going to stay in the same division, and this is a team that I've been pretty high on for a while, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers.
Good pick.
Yep. So right behind the Cardinals there, 14-9. So one more win, one more loss, partially because the Cardinals didn't play a couple of games. They've won 6 in a row, 7-3. Now, the run differential is not nearly as sparkling as the Cardinals, +5 as compared to +27. But I think they've got some guys, Ryan Braun's still there. We're talking Lorenzo Cain is over there. I really like this team. Christian Yelich out in the outfield. So this is the kind of team that I think has a lot of firepower offensively. Now, their pitchers have to do some stuff. They're not particularly strong there. But they've got a great offense, and they've been playing really hot lately. Yeah, I mean,
so their pitching staff, it's interesting. They've allowed more runs than the Cardinals, but they've played 2 more games. So they actually rank 9th in ERA, 10th in WHIP. They have a great bullpen, which is something that we've talked about a ton. But in particular, they have Josh Hader, who has moved into this closing role after being a dominant setup man to start the year. He, in 14 innings of pitching, has only allowed 2 earned runs. He's allowed 1 that was unearned, but he has 4 holds, 3 saves. So he's come into 7 save situations, if you will. Most impressively, though, Matt, in 14.2 innings, he struck out 29 batters. That is a team best. He is definitely somebody that's flown a little bit under the radar, particularly because he pitches in the bullpen, but also because the Cincinnati or the Milwaukee Brewers have been here and there from the last couple of years. They obviously got close and we're up there, the darlings of last year, but they're putting something together, and I think that this isn't a fluky start once again. They're probably going to hold on to this, I think, deeper into the second half of the year.
Yeah, this division, by the way, is going to be tough.
Yep.
The Cubs are still sitting there, still kind of wavering down at the bottom. I think they're feeling an effect of their weather situation, but they're plus 24 in run differential, which means they're probably not at the right record at 10-9. So This whole division looks like it's going to be a tough one, minus the Reds, who've already fired their manager, which someone may get to.
Yep.
So I don't want to go that far yet, but this division looks good. The Pirates faded a little bit against the Phils, and that may continue, but at least three of these four teams look poised to have a pretty deep year.
I agree with that. How about in the American League?
I think the hottest teams right now are, in my opinion, in the National League. That being said, at first I was thinking about picking the Red Sox, but after that showing against Oakland, really just one night of grandeur, which we will probably touch on, if I had to guess, at a later date.
Yes,
I do want to give a shout out to the team that hit them. The Oakland Athletics, the Oakland A's, are 7-3 in their last 10. Obviously had the no-hitter recently, which was pretty incredible. For a team that we probably expect not to have a pretty great year. Great little streak they're putting on right now, as they have floated their way back to 500. Once again, we don't have a lot in terms of talent on this roster, but it's a great sight for them, and to be back to 500, maybe they've got something brewing slowly there. So great job by that crew. In particular, if you get a no-hitter against the best team in baseball, arguably
the best team ever to get no hit.
Right. That's pretty incredible. And Jed Lowry kind of leading that team there, batting .351, 6 home runs, 23 RBIs. There's a guy who maybe gets traded at the trade deadline, something like along those lines. So great start for him. Chris Davis also with 6 home runs. So a good amount of power throughout the lineup here too.
No, well, that's a really good point that you bring them up, because Chris Davis is a guy that, he obviously hits a ton of home runs. He has 6 already on the year. He's batting .270, like you said, which normally isn't where he's been. We've thought, can he get back up there? He was running that clip a couple years ago, but since then his batting average has faltered a bit in lieu of hitting more home runs. But you have guys like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, who are also starting the year off really well. They have a lot of guys that are plus 270 in terms of their batting average. They have one of the best batting averages in baseball. These guys, second, actually, now that I pull it up, but fourth in home runs, fourth in runs. It's just their pitching really outside of Sean Manaea that it gets kind of dicey, which was something that we were, really coming to expect there from this Oakland A's team. So, can this offense sustain the run that they've been on in terms of power? That's going to be a really interesting story coming as we, exit April and enter May.
Right, definitely. And, I think the one thing there, as nice as this little run's been for them, that division is pretty stacked. Yeah. You'd expect even the Texas Rangers, who I was high on and have not come out to play early on, but you would expect, even them to kind of bounce back. So it's going to be tough with the Astros and the A's and even the Mariners at 11-9 there at the top to have any real sustained success. And the Angels, right. So really a big 3 in that division that are probably going to limit the A's this year, but get some energy, get some push moving forward, and let's see what happens, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, so I had the Red Sox last week as my hot team, but we should acknowledge them despite the no-hitter. They're still on this meteoric pace with their offense and their pitching. I mean, 64 run differential. Really, Matt, before they got no hit, they were 17-2. They're 8-1 at home, which you'd expect that they'd be good at Fenway, but 9-1 on the road, and then they lose 2, so they're 9-3 now.
Right.
But they're not my hot team. My hot
Okay.
team is going to be the Cleveland Indians, because what they have been able to do, or what they haven't been able to do offensively, they are matching it completely by their pitching. Their pitching is exactly what we thought it was going to be, and you and I both had a little bit of a fear that they're getting up there in age. They've had some injury problems. They might not be there, but they've come out firing, literally throwing gas. And I think, the staff is a combined whip of under 1, which 19 games into the season, holy shit. You're letting up. I mean, that's 19 times 9. That's whatever that number ends up being. Math, shout out math major here. That's less than 1 runner per inning. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Shout out to my guy, Jose Ramirez, who is not batting the best. He's only batting .236, but 7 homers. Let's go, baby.
Yeah. And you would expect him to feast on that division as well, with the Twins mediocre and the other 3 teams probably not looking particularly strong.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. They're batting once their hitting starts to get going, which I think they were similar this year. I specifically remember Edwin being this way, that he had a really shitty first half of the season.
Right.
But once they all start getting it going, because Francisco Lindor is batting .220, Yonder Alonso is batting .221, Michael Brantley's been hurt a little bit, but he's batting pretty well. But once they get it going, I mean, this could just be the Red Sox and the Indians basically just sitting around waiting for the playoffs to start in August.
Right. No, I think what's incredible here is like they're next to last in OPS and on base, so it literally nowhere but up.
Yeah,
you can't say anything more than that. They're definitely still scary. I mean, if you're the rest of the league, the division and the league, you're like, wait a second, holy crap, we better watch out. You better get your wins now, Boston and really Houston, if you want to have a shot at being a top 1 and 2, because I think the Indians are coming.
Yeah, and they're leading their division, having only scored 68 runs. The Tigers have scored more runs than them. The fucking Royals and the Twins are tied with them in runs. The Rays and the Baltimore Orioles have scored more runs than them. Once Cleveland's offense starts to get it going even just slightly more, this is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, right. I'll stay right in the AL here, and I'll pick my cold team of the week, and I'm going to go team I brought up before, and that's the Texas Rangers. Yeah. Very unimpressed. Now, I was very high on them, so they make it easy pick. 4-6 in their last 10, which isn't the worst record you can find. But still at the bottom of the division, not taking advantage of kind of any of the issues in that division, and they can't dig themselves too deep of a hole. I think they're -35 in run differential. I think they're a huge candidate to kind of start to dump some guys. They've got a ton of players you think are going to be good. So really just not doing much of anything right now across the board. Disappointing start, to say the least. Cole Hamels, ERA 4.76. That's not what we're looking for. 5 starts, only 1 quality. He's supposed to be their leader. Early on, I guess you'd say it's Bartolo Colon probably. The sparkling 2.59 ERA. Not bad.
More 1-3 ERA, just under 6.
Yeah. So, but I would just tell you, there's just not a lot. I just don't get it. Like I said, I look at this roster, I see talent like all over the field. So what's up? But they could use some. I definitely think that they could be a big seller at the deadline. In my opinion, they've got some great guys you might snag from teams, Joey Gallo or Beltre or Mazzara. I mean, there's plenty of candidates.
Adrian Beltre, still batting .300. Guy is a consummate hitter. Just all-timer.
I mean, he doesn't have the power early this year, older, but you'd expect that to show up at some point. Yeah. So they're just, to me, I've just been unimpressed with the team that for some reason I can't get out of my head as being, I want them to be good so bad, and for whatever reason, they're not.
No. I love that Joey Gallo, just weird baseball stats, and Robinson Chirinos is this way too, and he's actually played less games. As is Drew Robinson. They all have more strikeouts than any, like so the amount of strikeouts they have, no player on the Rangers has that many hits. You have Gallo striking out 28 times in every single game he's played in. I don't know if it has been, but it's 28 over 23 games. The most hits that anybody on the team has is Nomar Mazara at 25. I mean, this is absurd. Joey Gallo's had 18 hits, batting just above 200. That's to be expected. He's not really an average guy. He has 7 homers. He's doing what you're paying him to do, but it's nuts.
No, yeah, definitely. So, like I said, want to see them do better, but they can't.
No, very good pick. Very good pick. I am not going to go with the Chicago White Sox, even though they are losers of 7 in a row. I think
they're easy pick in there if you want to take them. You know what I mean? But we talked about possibly being that way for them.
Yeah.
So
we talked about. I think I picked them last week. I'm going to go though with the Baltimore Orioles, who are close to there. Like I mentioned, they have scored a decent amount of runs, 72. They're pitching though, like the team I picked last week in the National League, the Cincinnati Reds, who we discussed briefly. Their pitching staff is abysmal. They are minus 49 in run differential, which the White Sox do have a worse one, but they're dead last in batting average, which I find fascinating because they've been able to score runs here and there. They're 23rd, nothing really to write home about, but they're not in a bottom 6 spot in terms of runs scored. So in other words, for being last place of 6 divisions, they've scored some more runs than some other teams, Cleveland being one of them. But it's crazy. I mean, the guys that are supposed to do well, your Manny Machado's, your Adam Jones, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Adam Jones, you might hope that his batting average is better, but Manny Machado's hit 8 home runs, is batting 350. Like, that's nuts. He's 17 RBI. No one around these guys can do anything. It's not even just the fact that their pitching staff is abysmal. The rest of their lineup is just garbage.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if maybe a couple guys ship over for Machado, I'll take him if he's ready to sign here. I'm a big fan of that guy. He's probably one of my favorite players in baseball.
Could you imagine if they had gotten rid of him in spring training? How bad they would be?
Well, yeah, it would be really bad.
And they have 2 more wins than the Reds, and the Reds are really bad.
Right, and I got to tell you, the other thing here, with that division with the Blue Jays kind of catching fire here, one of the best bullpens in baseball, this season seems relatively over in April for them. Yeah. Because that division is just, there's even the Rays have a little bit more going on, but really the top teams in that division are just really good at baseball. Yeah. So it's going to be a long season for the Orioles.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, even the Rays, they always have, like you mentioned, they have something together. They always have some young gun that's always, a bright spot. So they even have that. Baltimore, all they have is Manny Machado, and he's on his way out. It's nuts.
Yep.
But let's quickly get. Let's quickly get National League cold teams in. I picked Cincinnati last week, but like you mentioned, they fired their manager. So really just the season's over for them. They have 3 wins. They're 3-18. I'm going to go Miami Marlins though. 5-16, mainly because of how bad, their pitching staff's pretty awful too. I think they've let up the most runs in baseball, but that whole situation in Miami is absolutely absurd. You have Marlins man running around, going to the fucking Cayman Islands. You have Derek Jeter saying these guys can compete and all this nutty shit. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on there. I think it's safe to say that the Phillies Greg and I will not be on last place watch this year for the Phillies because the Miami Marlins certainly have that locked up, at least for the East.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's an embarrassment. But it's not an embarrassment if he would just come out and say, hey, they're tanking. That's what they're doing. Yeah. They're tanking, period. Yeah. I do like Lewis Brinson. I think he's going to be a good player for them. They do have some good guys. Miguel Rojas. There are players who I like down there, but they're clearly tanking. To me, that's just the way I look at it. yeah, I mean, uh, it is embarrassing. He came down there, he traded away arguably their two best players, in
Three best
Stanton
players.
Yelich. Say again?
And Ozuna.
That's right. Yeah, he just was like, okay,
They're
bye.
their three best players.
Right. I don't know, but if he's cleaning house, he's cleaning house, I guess. But it's he's just be honest with us, be honest with the fan base. So I would agree there. It's not a good start, kind of at all there.
Yeah, not good. But yeah, those are the hot and cold teams. Let's move over to players. We'll start in batting with your Roy Hobbs Batter of the Week for those new to the program, named after the character from The Natural. I'll start with mine. I'm gonna go pretty chalky here, but it's really worth mentioning that Carlos Correa has just had a monster week, batting .542 with 2 homers, 7 ribbies, struck out a few times. But I mean, they're a part of the Houston Astros team that we didn't really mention even in our hot teams. But they're right back into it, and they're looking like they could win 130 games. I mean, that Astros team is just good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. They are. Yeah, they're a really good baseball team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go a little different route here. I'm gonna actually take a guy that maybe we haven't talked about a little bit, but
Ooh.
last 7 days here for us, Nolan Arenado, 12 at bats,
man,
7 hits, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, batting .583 over the last week. So that's just, yeah, hell of a week for him. There's a big name guy who also maybe, probably is going to stay there, but could be moved. I'm trying to take the big stars on kind of not middling teams because they're not terrible, but they're not great. But there's pretty hot line right there for a guy who got in the big fight and now is back playing and is looking strong again.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I could only imagine if he hadn't had the suspension of how he would have done this week. But that's a great pick. We mentioned Manny Machado, batted .500 on the week. Javi Baez really killing it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the bigger names starting to really come on, which it's good to see. Good to see there. Let's go over to pitchers. Our Billy Chappell pitcher of the week, named after the Kevin Costner character in For Love of the Game. I'll start, and I want to recognize my guy from last week, so I'm going to pick him 2 weeks in a row, mainly because his 2 starts in the last 7 days have been even more electrifying than they were from last week, from 2 weeks ago, I should say. That's Jacob deGrom. deGrom from the New York Mets went 0-0, 2 starts, 14 innings pitched, struck out 22, only allowed 3 runs, and he didn't get wins. That tells you something for how weird the Mets bullpen has been. A whip of .91. Mentioned the 22 strikeouts, opposing batting average under 200. There's only one other guy that really was more dominant, at least in the National League. But deGrom, Syndergaard, they are on fire, and the Mets are, they're off to a start that could, the way the Nationals have started, the Mets could put themselves in a very good position through the first quarter of the year.
Oh, they definitely could. I'm going to go across the coast down to a team that we really haven't talked much about and kind of hasn't had much going on, but that's a guy by the name, probably haven't heard his name in a little bit, Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, good pick.
Very strong start. So overall his season, only 4 starts, but he's got a .35 ERA, and his last 2 starts in particular, 13 innings overall, no earned runs, 18 strikeouts, only gets a 1-0 record out of that with a .46 ERA. So hot start for a guy who a couple years back was a huge name in baseball. Obviously having a good start for San Francisco, a team that definitely is going to need him if they're going to have any opportunity to try to make some noise, offensive and aging roster.
Absolutely.
So, yep. Mm-hmm. No, quick shout out, by the way, to Brandon Belt's 21 pitch at bat for them too, which is pretty incredible. 13-minute long at bat is incredible to think about. But don't want to dive too deep into that. That's a team that will kind of like the Rangers, has a lot of names on it.
Yep.
They've been a little stronger than the Rangers to start, but their offense has been a little weaker than expected with all those names. So hopefully they can turn that around in the Bay Area there.
Yeah. Worth noting too that Corey Kluber had a good week, but a weird week for him, I'll say. He went 2-0, only 10 strikeouts over 13 innings. So a little bit down week for him in terms of
Yeah,
strikeouts. Even Aaron Nola had a nice week, 1-1, but really, not terrible. That just an unfortunate loss at the way back, if that makes sense, last week during the week for the Phillies, obviously coming off the big sweep. But let's get to the Phils coming off a 4-game sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Nat, we talked about it at the top of the show. The Phillies are 9-1 at home. They're 5-6 on the road. I mean, these guys look great.
yeah. I mean, they are plus 52 in since their 1-4 start, plus 52. Second only to the Red Sox, who are plus 57, and no one else is even close. The next best is the Astros at plus 37. So ERA, third best in the majors during that span. Basically, since Gabe Kapler got booed off the mound, this team has been really, really good. Now, I don't want to over-sugarcoat it. They smoked the Pirates. They crushed the Rays, and they swept the Reds. And they whipped up on the Marlins. So they do have to prove to us that they can go ahead and beat some good teams, but we just have guys all over the roster that are trying to find starting moments, right? So
Yeah.
Hoskins, Herrera, Altair, Nick Williams, so 4 outfielders: Crawford, Franco, Hernandez, Santana, Kingery. That's 5 infielders for 4 spots, and then Alfaro and Knapp trying to battle for the catcher spot. So they really have an extra guy across the board, which is really important and impressive to me. In my mind,
I agree.
The depth,
and you saw it yesterday with Aaron Altair coming in. He came into a pinch spot and then just stayed in throughout the game. And in his 3 at bats, I mean, really did some good work. Obviously, had the sac fly at the very end of the game. So I guess 3 plate appearances, not at bats. But I mean, these guys, like you said, they want to have their starter moments. They want to prove their spots. It's not even that they're being platooned, because they're moving guys around all over the place. We joked about it last week that you could put Scott Kingery anywhere, but he's played right. I've seen him play right field, third base. I haven't seen him play shortstop in person, but I've seen him play second. I mean, those are 4 positions right there. He's moved all over. Hoskins, I don't even think has made an appearance at first base this year yet. And that's something that you could also do in putting Santana down, or games that you want, that you're in the American League. If you wanted to put Santana at DH and move Reese back to first, you could do that. I think Gabe wants to try to give Reese as many reps in left as he can, because I think that's where he wants him to be when all is said and done, for at least for the time being. But awesome starts from some players. Obviously, Hoskins, Odubel Herrera coming on very strong. Cesar Hernandez, very strong production, getting on base a ton. A lot of walks drawn. Same with Hoskins. But Cesar, if his batting average got a little bit higher, his on-base percentage could be up there with Hoskins, which we have to talk about his slash line. He's slashing 323, 483, and 615. Holy
damn.
Fuck. I mean, he's, for the amount that they've both struck out, which is tied with a number of players for the team lead at 21, which, quick shout out to Jorge Alfaro, who's played nearly half the games as Hoskins and Hernandez and has struck out that many times. Batting 186.
I would say like what makes this lineup interesting is it's not a power heavy lineup yet. No. And I'm okay with that, because I think when you get too deep into power, you have a problem with strikeouts. The Yankees are experiencing that now. Obviously, when you have Judge or oh my God, Stanton, those are elite power hitters. But when you have Maikel Franco, supposed to being a power guy and just striking out, instead, hey, let's get on base, let's work counts. This team is seeing when you watch them at bat, they're in every at bat. There's no giveaway at bats. They just have really good guys in that regard. So it impresses me the hitting talent. And you even have some guys like J.P. Crawford who are still trying to find their stroke, which I think is a good thing as well. So not everyone's having great success early, but enough guys are to make it work.
Absolutely. And we have to mention, I mentioned Nola a little bit. The pitching staff, Matt, has been incredible. The bullpen over that series against the Pirates was fantastic. The starters have really figured it out, I think, or for the most part, but they all look great into the fact that Aaron Nola's ERA through 4 starts, I'm trying to find the number, through 5 starts is, 0.23 or 2.3. Jake Arrieta's looked nice, and he's only pitched in 3 games, but his is 2.04, and that's with that really rough start. Even Vince Velasquez, a guy that is clearly the 4 or 5 on the on the roster after a really good year 2 years ago, he's coming on strong enough. His ERA could be better, but he's still getting strikeouts. I mean, the idea of maybe moving him to the bullpen once you find another starter, not the worst idea out there. Nick Pivetta, though, very, very good start to the year.
Yes.
Ben Lively's looked pretty good, even though he's 0-1 and has a 4.6 ERA. So we'll see how they keep going. I mean, the wacky weather has actually given the Phillies a little bit of flexibility to figure out where they want to put their starters. They're obviously into a rotation now, but with staggering off Arrieta's first start, they've been able to really utilize the hot starts from Nola and Pivetta, but not overuse them.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, and by the way, I don't know if I caught this, but Victor Arano, did you bring him up? Did I miss that?
No, I did not bring him up. Yeah, no, he's been outstanding coming out of the pen for the Phillies.
10 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 1 hit, 11 strikeouts.
Yeah.
There we go. That's pretty.
That's a really good. Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up.
So young guy. I mean, a new guy to the team here. So we'll see how he can maintain that. And young, he's only 23. So let's see if we can find some gems now. So very impressive.
Yasco Rios up there too. Yeah. Rios, not Rios.
It's kind of the time where you see a lot of names you're not used to. A lot of new guys coming out of the pen. And we'll see what happens with them.
No, so, it's exciting.
Love the start.
I was going to say they continue their homestand to wrap it up against Arizona. I'm going to go tomorrow on Tuesday before I go up to Boston. I'll be up there. Me and Greg may or may not be doing a podcast while I'm up there, but I'm going to Fenway on Friday. I'm really excited for that.
That'd be awesome.
But then the Phillies play Atlanta this weekend. I'm missing the Zed concert on Friday night.
Gee, big loss.
It actually might be pretty cool. I might try to go. It seems like you and I might be playing a little golf on Saturday, so I might try to go Sunday and see the Braves.
Sounds good. Yeah. I will tell you. So I actually got down to the Pirates game, as we talked about.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, we didn't even talk about this. How was your first trip to the ballpark?
Cold. Oh. Kind of a tough one. I really wanted to go down. Our friend Ben, who I don't want to talk about because of his fandom, is a Pirates fan, so we went down. A couple of his buddies had a really good time. I mean, it was getting to the ballpark was great. Walked around, saw the new what's it called, the yard, right?
Yep.
The wiffle ball, a little tent where the barbecue spot used to be, Bulls, but seats were fantastic. We got to watch the first couple innings, which was incredible. Even though there was not as crowded, which obviously due to both the Phillies last year's record, but also the fact that it was in the 30s with wind chill, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the wind was bad on Thursday night.
Yeah. I hate to tell you this. We left early. And now two reasons. We had a Pittsburgh fan with us, and he wanted to go, but he's got a newborn, so I had to kind of be nice there. But also the Sixers were on, so we actually ended up walking over to Xfinity after the Phillies got up 6-0. We at the third inning we walked out, and went over to the Xfinity Live to watch some Sixers. Wasn't packed in there like I expected, but I really think the cold had a negative effect on the whole area that night. But I will just jump right in with the stadium snack here.
Yes.
It's an old favorite, though, I got to say. I just, it's been too long. So over to Chickies and Pete's I went, grabbed some crab pies. Yep, and I actually got two sauces. I got the cheese sauce, of course. I also got some buffalo dip sauce as well,
Ooh,
which I thought wouldn't go well with the fries, and it didn't. But don't worry, I picked up some Chickies and Pete's chicken tenders as well and enjoyed those. So
solid.
great. And I got a nice big Summer Love Victory Pounder, which was fantastic from the ballpark. So great little bar, by the way. And I don't know if this was here last year. So on the way to the yard, right before you get there, there's a sit-down bar with TVs outside.
Yeah, that's new this year.
That's new. Okay, yes, we actually stopped there for a moment, watched a little Sixers, and then headed out. So definitely tough because you want it to be, if it's going to be cold, you want it to be cold in October when you're in the playoffs. It's tough early on in the season. So looking forward to at least short sleeve weather. But I had the Utley jersey on, of course, rocking that pretty hard. So great first experience. We won 7-0, so didn't miss anything. Arrieta striking guys out. Had a great time. So that's my stadium snack of the week there for you. You know, an old favorite, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And before I give you mine,
and you know what? Ben got the what's it called? What's the cheesesteak place in the back? Not
Campos?
Tony Luke. Campos. Yep,
Campos,
exactly.
good. That's solid play.
Yeah.
The one that I've done for the crab fries, I've done this a lot at the Flyers. I've gotten honey mustard with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I had chicken tenders. I just had that as like the dipping sauce for it.
Okay.
And just like a fry filled in there. Discovered it. Pretty good. I mean, you know, the sweetness with it's for those unaware, Chickies and Pete's, they're crinkled crab fries. So it's basically Old Bay sauce or Old Bay seasoning. So those two flavors coming together and for a unique twist.
Yeah.
But my stadium snack, Matt, we're going to go to one of your favorite places, up to Minnesota.
All right.
Target Field. They have a stand called the In Dorito.
Okay.
It's a combination Indian burritos. So it's from a company called Hot Indian Foods, one of the Twin Cities' premier food trucks and purveyor of electric Indian dishes. I think that's supposed to be authentic. Thrillist here, not doing well. Anyway, so what it sounds like it is, I mean, it's a mix of Indian food inside a burrito, kind of like a sushi burrito, but Indian food. So you got a little curry in there, got a little bit of naan looks like instead of the traditional, tortilla. So yeah, that's definitely one that caught my eye looking this up here. Obviously there's other traditional, more traditional Minnesota type foods like sausages and whatnot, but the Indian burrito definitely sticks out there. So it's definitely one you got to go check out. If you've ever been up there or you have a stadium snack, be sure to submit it to either myself or Matty D or the Thunderblog accounts, ThunderBLG on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Instagram. Make sure you tag us too so we can check those out.
Oh, and before we wrap up some of the baseball talk here, and we have to do we have to talk about Ohtani, by the way. I think it's important that we mention. So before Sunday's game,
should he just get his own segment now?
I mean, probably. And he threw about 90 minutes before the game. He threw a bullpen session and then batted cleanup for the Angels. Pujols had a day off, and so as manager Mike Scioscia called it, he went full gorilla.
Yeah.
As compared to a touch and feel session. So went 2 for 4. They did lose 1, 2 for 4. So I got to tell you, the only concern is you could see it with the blisters that formed when he was playing against the Red Sox past Tuesday. So they've got to be concerned about wearing him out. And where does it make more sense for him to be? You want him to play both ways, but you don't want him to get hurt. So great another week for the sensation. I mean, it's sensational to watch. He's driving baseball back up too, which is fantastic.
Yeah, because it's a crazy story.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. I mean, it's just incredible.
So. Between that, Mike Trout having a great year, dominant.
Love that too.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about short sleeves weather with the Phillies. Now we have all these stories that now that the weather's starting to turn, I think people are going to really. I mean, people love going to baseball games anyway, especially on weekends for the idea of just being outside, hanging out with your friends, drinking a cold beer. But now you have these players that you want to go out and see, these big names. I think it's awesome for baseball that it's not just a Red Sox player or Bryce Harper or the Cubs or whomever. The Angels now have somebody for that. The Dodgers are doing really well. So, I mean, a lot of feel good stories around baseball.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Gotta be happy there.
Yeah. I do have a nice little beer corner for us today.
Ooh.
So actually was out in the links playing some golf on Saturday. Beautiful golf day, long pant, quarter zip kind of weather. My real Matty D special, played great.
Oh yeah.
But and we did have some of my favorite staple now, Little Founders, but stopped by the Halfway House, had some new selections. We picked up the Sierra Nevada a Hazy Little Thing IPA. Definitely a hop-heavy, intensive beer, unfiltered. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really, really enjoyed it. Me and my brother Jack picked him up, kind of walked the course, had a couple koozies. Now, 6.7%. So you got to be careful. I mean, it's not terrible, but you have 2 or 3. You're having
that could do some damage.
Right, you're having a little bit of a problem, but definitely something that you can eat with, with real man food. Some ribs you could jump on with it. I would probably go really well with it. So, definitely impressed with it. I'll definitely be picking it up again. Also has a great can, a little green and yellow going on. So, big fan of the can for sure. So definitely take a look if you can find it. You might be able to grab one.
Yeah. Saturday was a great golf day. Great golf day. Yeah. But yeah, quickly, minor league talk. Pacific Coast League, we mentioned it last week. The other AAA league. So this is basically more of your West Coast teams that have baseball teams out there. As the most eastern team that I can see on this is probably the Nashville Sounds out in Tennessee. So really, you're looking aside from Nashville and the Memphis Redbirds, you're looking west of the Mississippi River. You have the Iowa Cubs, some other teams that are starting to make some unique names, like New Orleans is the New Orleans Baby Cakes after the Mardi Gras dish. You have the Chihuahuas of El Paso, however you pronounce that. The Salt Lake Bees, which their mascot is a honeybee. Vegas as a team, so possible names murmuring around of the major league expansion cities: Nashville, Las Vegas, obviously being the hot one from the Golden Knights. But it's a fun league. A fun fact: it has its own conferences. It does what the NFL does. It's 4 divisions of 4, but the American and the Pacific conferences. So interesting there. The winner of their league will play the winner of AAA. It's very much like the NL and the AL used to be, that they don't play any interleague play throughout the year. They play the AAA All-Star game, where they rotate between a PCL and a International League stadium every year. And the only time that any 2 teams will actually play each other is in what's called, or it used to be called, the Bricktown Showdown. It's now called, I think, the AAA National Championship or something like that. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, there's the other team there. You'll hear, just like with the International League, you'll hear big names making their rehab assignments there and whatnot. But let's wrap baseball up. Look ahead a little bit for this week and the week ahead. You mentioned the awesome series between the Angels and the Astros. Is that what you mentioned?
I mentioned the Mets and the
and the Cardinals. You're right.
Cardinals, yeah.
So you have the Angels and the Astros to look forward to.
That's amazing. That's big time. Now I'm excited.
Which the first start is tomorrow, which is Shohei Ohtani versus Charlie Morton, who we didn't even mention. He's off to another hot start for that Astros team. But you have some other good ones as well. You have Washington and San Francisco, both teams that have had somewhat disappointing starts. So look to see if they can bounce back there. We mentioned the Phillies Diamondbacks. Very good starts for both. So we'll see how that goes. Do you have any ones that you're looking forward to this
No, I mean,
weekend or anything like that?
I do. I do. Like I said, I think the Mets. I think the Mets Cardinals is a fascinating one to me. This is like now we're starting to get into the season a little bit more. You can really, in my opinion, start to pick these kind of games out. These exciting matchups, which I'm pretty pumped up for. These fun matchups that between two teams like that. I will say, I'm not, like I said, haven't been overly impressed with Chicago early on. So they do get Milwaukee this weekend. That's to me a big series for them that I think they need to show that they can play. They're just kind of middling, and I think the weather's having that kind of effect. Yu Darvish has been terrible, so I'm kind of on Chicago.
Not such a hot start,
right? So I'm kind of on Cubs watch here a little bit, I guess you could say, watching those games. So that's another one I'll probably be able to. I want to at least catch part of the action there. At least in my mind. Did you mention Washington and Arizona?
No, I did not mention that. That's a really good pick, too.
Yeah, there's another one as well because Washington hasn't actually had that same strong start as I think everyone expected. The talent's there. They'll be fine. But as you mentioned, with the Mets possibly jumping out to the early start here, too, that's dangerous.
No, absolutely could be. So, definitely important. That's a really good one as well. But I think that's going to do it for baseball. We, I wrote a blog today about some thoughts about the Flyers, but gotta acknowledge they fell to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it was disappointing.
I prefer we glance over this topic because I'm still very depressed here.
So we'll acknowledge the Flyers lost, the Penguins won. They'll likely win, I think, the next series. But that we'll talk about that when we get to the post. An update on the Washington-Columbus Game 6. That is tied in the middle of the second period. Nice. Boston and Toronto, the only other active series, is 2-1 Toronto right now towards the end of the second. So that would be huge if you got a Game 7. But really, I mean, all the other series that we have to look forward to in the second round out in the West, you got the two teams that swept the first round, the Knights and the Sharks, which is going to be great. And I'm very excited for Winnipeg and Nashville. Those are going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, the home ice advantage for both of those guys is just going to be crazy.
It's unreal.
I love the Winnipeg white. And then I obviously you can't go wrong with Nashville. I'm going to pull really hard for the Preds or the Golden Knights. They're my two teams I'd like to see win. And as long as the Penguins don't win, I'll be a pretty happy guy.
Yeah, I want to say that there's the possibility that like this is fine if assuming the Capitals get through. This is finally the year, but I mean, Greg and I mentioned it in the regular season. The Penguins, and I'll make this quick to for the sake of your sanity. The Penguins just, how they're going to beat you. You know exactly how they can line up and do it. And you can try to defend your best against it, and they're still going to do it. And you're going to make yourself go insane trying to do it. We just experienced it for a 6-game series. Say what you will about how the Flyers played. But, I mean, those top three guys, the only thing I would say that one of the two teams they could play in the second round is that they're not as good defensively as Columbus. They're just so much better offensively. And I think they're just deeper than Washington.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I thought with the Flyers were at their best when they played physical within the game of hockey. Yep. That's when they kind of grinded it down. But there's a reason, and I hate to say this, but there's a reason that the Penguins are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. They have a ton of talent on that roster still. They're a really, really good hockey team. But Matt Murray can be beat. You got to get pucks on the net. I mean, he was shaky at best in game 6, and if it wasn't for some Flyer defensive zone turnovers, really unforced in my opinion, that we're looking at a Game 7. So they can be beat, but I hate, and I got to tell you, I actually at this point I dislike Malkin more than I dislike Crosby. Crosby's a super talent. You can't shut him down. No. You have to survive Crosby and you can't let a guy like Getzel have 4 goals.
No.
Like that's what you can't do. You can get to their defense, you can get to their goaltender. But they're definitely, there's a reason they're back-to-back Cups champions, and they're going for a third, and to be considered a legitimate dynasty at that point. Yeah. But the competition will not be easy, and whoever they face out of the Western Conference is going to be, I think all 4 of those teams left have legitimate Cup opportunities. Absolutely. They are really, really good. So, but go Golden Knights and go Preds.
Yeah.
But tomorrow night, Philly. I love him. I love the orange and black. I'm a huge hockey guy, but I've already forgotten because Game 5. Whoa. Sorry, Game 5.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is fired up to make his home playoff debut. They're a 10-point favorite last time I checked. Are you going, G?
So I'm not.
Oh, wait, no, you're not. You're right. Okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
Third girl, Emily, has the season tickets, and she took her dad to Game 1. She took me to Game 2, and she'll be taking her Girls on Hoops co-host Mary to Game 5. Game 7, I do not know who she would be taking if it gets to there, but let's hope it doesn't.
Let's have some confidence because a lot of guys now are picking the Sixers out of the East.
Yeah, I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast today, and he loves them.
Yep, so does Chris Broussard. Stephen A. Smith has said some pretty positive things. So
gotta play it while we talk about them.
Well, I gotta tell you, if you look at the rest of the teams in the East, they look on paper the strongest. Now I know they don't have LeBron, I know they don't have Brad Stevens or the Greek Freak, and I don't want to discount the Raptors. I know that Washington beat them twice, but I think that'll change. They look like the best team in the East. They look like the best team. So, but they got to put the screws to Miami, get through that series so they can rest because this team does need to be rested because they've got young talent that needs the rest like Joel, and they've got old talent like Ilyasova and Bellinelli and even Redick who could use a couple days off here.
No, I agree with that. I just think the fact that you can play such a sloppy Game 5 or Game 4 and pull that out when Joel's not shooting well and Ben Simmons just takes over. I mean, it's going to be fun. I think they make up for the sloppy Game 2, and really the first 3 games, your second quarters were all just not good. Game 2 especially, but I think the way that they've been playing, especially the way that they can play, bodes very well for them, and I think it's a big redemption at home. And I think you're right; they get some much deserved rest, but it's gonna be fun. Quick side note, Matt, I was really worried, and I was thinking about this today, thinking that I was a playoff curse because I'd been to obviously all 3 Flyers home games, having the season tickets. Which somber moment of silence from my season ticket membership as we did not renew our tickets.
Yeah.
But I also went to Game 2, all 4 home losses. So I thought, shit, I'm cursed. I can't ever go to a playoff game again. But I remembered I went to the Eagles-Falcons game, so I'm okay.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not cursed.
That's true. I mean, I didn't go to the last game and they still lost, so I can definitely go back. Pretty excited about that. But no, I'm giving you a hard time. Hey, I will say this, and I thought it was interesting. Joel Embiid is the best big man in the East. Easily. I don't think anybody can match up. Serge Ibaka is too old now. Al Horford, as crafty as he is and talented, I don't want to disrespect Horford. He's not big enough. I think that's gonna be a tough matchup.
I've been saying really quickly on Ibaka. I've been saying all season that I like the Sixers against Toronto because of the fact that they don't have an answer for Joel Embiid.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, even if a team surprises somebody, Indiana, Miles Turner is going to.
Indiana's scary. Milwaukee can be scary.
Indiana and Milwaukee are scary, but there's also a reason that they're the seeds that they are. Like that's kind of the way I look at it. I'm not trying to look ahead because we have to beat the Heat. We've got to beat them. I don't want to go back for a Game 6. I want to finish them off.
No, finish the fight. Finish the fight.
But to me, the only big man at all in the East left that makes me at all nervous in terms of being able to physically match Embiid is probably Al Horford, just because of his craftiness and the way Brad Stevens, kind of moves chess pieces around. But the Cavs don't have anybody. The Pacers don't have anybody. The Bucks don't have a center that can match up. The Heat clearly don't because he's dominating Whiteside. In the West, I mean, a team like I think the obvious guy here would be Anthony Davis because he's kind of a center. And then if the Thunder somehow figure it out against the Jazz, but even the Jazz and the Thunder have Gobert.
I don't know if the Thunder do.
Well, Steven Adams is a tough defensively. Yeah. Steven Adams and Rudy Gobert defensively, at least physically, can body Joel Embiid. So that's just but once again, Joel, his talent level is so high. I mean, he's off the charts. His rise to being the best center in the league, which I personally think he is, They don't. Anthony Davis is listed as a power forward, so he doesn't count. And I still think he's better than Anthony Davis. In particular, his ability, it's kind of that unspoken ability. It's not necessarily physical talent, but the way he carries himself, like Joel Embiid is that good. Which I was nervous that if we stamped him and we gave him that kind of, hey, Joe, you're the best, he would take it and kind of lose himself in it, but he hasn't.
No.
He's been very good. So, I mean, between him and
the best.
Between him and Anthony Davis, I think they're the two best center. I mean, think of it. I can't think of another center between those two, Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, because I'm going to count Davis as a center at this point. They're the two best to me in the league because they do it both ways. They do it every night they're on the floor. And now at this point with Davis sweeping the Blazers, they both have had winning success. You know, guys who don't have, if you don't win, I don't care what your stats are. Now that Davis has had that kind of winning attitude too, I think it's going to be tough for the rest of the league because they're true dominant unicorns who are tough to defend every night.
No, I agree.
And I would love to see those two go head to head in an NBA Finals in the next 3-4 years. I mean, that would be incredible to me.
That'd be insane
to watch the return. I know they're not old school bigs because of their diverse offensive game, although both can post up, but of two big guys going at it. I love watching guards battle, but to watch two big guys would be kind of fun.
Be awesome. I'm very excited for it. Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun to watch it go forward. But yeah, I think it's time for a little Matty D breakdown. NFL draft is Thursday. It's gonna be fun. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it all breaks out. We could possibly go QB. We could see other things happen. We could see some skill players sneak in there. What are you thinking?
Well, I think first of all, this is when all these teams start to drive QBs. Now I'm out here hearing that there's a chance that a guy like a Mason Rudolph may go in the late first round because you got to get a QB. I'm not in love with this QB class compared to a lot of people. You start to prop some guys up. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, who is the best potential player? And to me, Josh Allen is the best potential. Do I think he's going to walk in and be as good as Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen? Absolutely not. I don't think he has the polish. But if you're the Browns, you've just traded for Tyrod Taylor. You can let him start at least 1 year, maybe two, and bring Allen up slowly. He looks like the perfect quarterback in terms of and I hate to say it because normally I'm a guy that wants a gamer. But I mean, I think he's going to end up going number one overall.
Josh Allen.
And I do think in the top 10, in the top 10, you'll see four quarterbacks. I think all four quarterbacks go in the top 10. Darnold, Allen, and Mayfield and Rosen all go in the top 10, in my opinion. If it's not by those 10 teams, somebody trades in to do so.
No. Well, if you saw the Bears do it to get Mitch Trubisky, I think you're definitely going to see these four go.
Right, which is a huge reach. What I think the shame of it is it's really the quarterbacks are kind of hiding some of the talent in this draft. Because there are some players here that, I mean, we've all talked about Saquon Barkley and how good he is, and I think he's the number one guy in the draft. But there's some other guys. Quentin Nelson is a guard at Notre Dame. Bradley Chubb is by far the best defensive end. There's really not a lot of guys behind him. Derwin James and Minka Fitzpatrick. Tremaine Edmonds of Virginia Tech. Cortland Sutton is a guy who's really no one knows where he's going to go. He's this massive wide receiver out of SMU, had a ton of talent and ability. And did pretty well in workouts as well. So there's a guy that can potentially go, pretty high. And watch out for Raquan Smith out of Georgia. He's a linebacker, one of the best linebacking prospects in terms of on-field production and measurables that's come out in years. And this is the kind of guy who could make a Luke Kuechly kind of impact year one, wherever he ends up going. A lot of mocks have him going as high as number 6. Most have him not getting by, someone like the Miami Dolphins at 11. He's a really, really good player who, like I said, you kind of miss out on some of these guys who, because everyone talks about quarterback. So I think there's going to be there's some really good players in this draft that I'm excited to see kind of where they go. Also, you got to be aware of a trade. It looks like it might happen at some point here. So eyes open for a trade, kind of see where that goes. I don't know who it's going to be. I heard a great one, by the way, and this may be really far-fetched, but I want your thoughts on this. This is an Eagles thing. Nick Foles and the 32nd pick to the Bills for the 12th pick in A.J. McCarron. I know we just – and I heard it.
This is pre-Brandon Brooks redoing his contract?
Yeah, it's pre-everything, but it's an interesting idea in my mind.
Yeah. It's super interesting because you're basically betting that Carson Wentz's confidence that he'll be back week 1 is 75% true, because 3 times out of 4 you get Wentz. 1 time you have to do McCarron against who was it, the Vikings week 1. That'd be moving up though in this talented draft would be intriguing. 20 spots.
Yeah. I mean,
the difference between Foles and McCarron. Right.
How much you didn't drop off is. Now, I will say at that 32nd pick, there's a couple really.
I was going to ask you, because the end of that round, because sort of the range of like top, 30 to 40 of where you could pick seems really intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, I actually would be a big proponent. A lot of teams will jump if let's say a quarterback falls like Lamar or Rosen, and they're available at 32, whatever phone call you have to take to talk to some of those early picks, take the phone call. Worth dropping back. I actually have heard now, with the potential issues with Michael Bennett, there is a potential for a defensive lineman, like a defensive tackle late, which may seem silly, but we only have 2 right now in Cox and Jernigan. Bringing in a guy like Maurice Hurst out of Michigan, who's a really talented kind of combo guy, might not be
Dr. Blitz.
Right, may not be the worst case scenario there. So I would be fine with that. I don't know if I want a running back that high. I am interested in one, but I think we have enough talent that we can possibly skip that.
Who are you interested in?
Ronald Jones out of USC. I think is a really, really under the radar back. Darius Geis was obviously getting a top. The other guy I really like is Sonny Michel.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of hype too. Yeah,
right. Maybe more of he's kind of a game changing kind of guy. I don't know. He kind of played a pass catching back role for Georgia this year with Nick Chubb also being there. But there's definitely an option. But I really like Ronald Jones. I am not set on needing to do that, though. I would also be very okay with a tight end. I really am high on Penn State's Mike Gesicki. He's a super athlete, big and strong. You get him, and now we can move some pieces around because we're now devoid with Selleck and Burton both gone. So Gesicki's the kind of guy you might be able to trade back and get as well. There's also a guy to South Dakota State, Dallas Goddard, who might end up, but then Hayden Hurst out of South Carolina. But I'm a big Gesicki guy. Loved watching him at
Penn State.
Penn State, excuse me. I said that before. But if there's a guy that my heart really wants, it's Christian Kirk out of Texas A&M. This guy is lightning fast. So he kind of gives you that difference. So you have Jeffries and Alshon Jeffrey, his ability to go catch a ball. You have Aguilar's quickness in the slot. Kirk may not be the right guy, but if you think he's good enough to be a younger Torrey Smith and a field stretch guy, he's also a great return man. There's an option late in the first, even early second, if you trade out to pick up a guy like that. You kind of get starry-eyed at skill position guys, and he's definitely a skill position guy that I'd want to at least eye up at some point.
I like it. Yeah. I like it a lot.
I don't know if there's a way. I don't know if there's a bad way for us. I think the options, whether it's a D lineman, a linebacker, if we think there's a guy there like Rashaan Evans falls, there's a lot of great options. So I'm pretty excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting for a lot of different storylines too. I mean, you have the Patriots with 2 first-round picks, so you see where they go. Obviously, what the Browns do. If the Giants I think they still hold on to number 2, but what do they do with it? I mean, it's gonna be a ton of fun, and it's only 1 round on Thursday, and that might.
I know.
It's gonna be. That's going there last year was awesome. You got like live picks, and you didn't get the ESPN the feed, but they also had to cater to it and whatnot. Yeah, but I'm excited to watch it on TV again. It's gonna be a ton of fun.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I'm very, very, very excited. I love it's all promise all the time, which is
No.
fantastic.
No, you know,
Yeah.
going to be good times. But I think that's going to do it for us, man. You got anything else?
No, that's really all I've got. Pay attention. A big night Friday for the NFL. Thursday, excuse me, and Friday for the NFL. Great weekend of baseball, and then obviously the continuation of TTP. I'm fired up.
Yes. Yeah, the Sixers are going to be fun. Make sure that you follow along on all of our social media accounts for that. For me up in Boston, for really this whole thing. We are playing golf this weekend. It's been confirmed. Well, we've been podcasting with some of our other brethren, including intern Jerry. So we'll be sure to document his follies on the golf course. Quick update: the Capitals are up 2-1 now against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So there is that. But yeah, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Like I said, Thunder BLG on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Instagram, thunderblogsports.com is where you can find all of our blog posts, like mine today, where I really let my emotions out about the Flyers and how bummed I was. But I'll digress. You heard us talk about it enough. Matt, thank you as always. This was a ton of fun.
Of course.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. For my man, Matty D, I am the G-Man. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.